This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Hello, I'm Lynda Hong, Assistant Podcast Editor for the Straits Times. This is In Your Opinion, a podcast series examining social issues of the day.
Hi, I'm Christie Chiu, and I'll be co-hosting this episode with Lynda.
In this episode brought to you by the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, we're going to talk about noisy neighbours.
Chiming in this episode is a grassroots leader who has been involved in mediating noise disputes among residents for 14 years.
Raymond Poh, Vice Chairman of the Tampines Central Citizens Consultative Committee, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, Raymond, could you share with us a particularly difficult or memorable dispute you helped to mediate?
Okay, basically, based on my 14 years of actually dealing with these kind of issues, it's a bit sticky about noise, especially in terms of noise can be very transient. And it can actually also depends on the person, tolerance level, right? So noise, this kind of thing is very subjective. There's no so-called immediate solution to resolve in this aspect, okay? During this period of time, I actually supported many of the residents who actually have some complaints about noise issue. But one of the most so-called adverse kind of a situation is when I know that, these neighbours actually suffered kind of a stress for about near to 2 years or plus. Then usually, we step in, GRL, grassroots leaders come in with one of my members. She went to visit, do a house visit, right? So we did actually found out that, this family has been actually very careful, and also they put some CCTVs, some noise detectors to trap and to record every single so-called noise created by another neighbour, which is actually upstairs neighbours, uncle, right? So, but of course, when we step inside, there's some recording by the phones and all that saying that, these are the noise they created. But for us, of course, we not able to deter exactly whether it's actually the upstairs neighbours creating the kind of noise. So for us, we need to walk through up and down to ensure that the noise is exactly where it's coming from. But we could not actually detect the noise at the time, right? We have to vet through, talk to the residents, right, to actually check it out. Did you actually hear some noises during this period of time? Like what kind of noise? And we, like for example, like dragging our chairs and all that, right? So I think we have to also understand whether the residents is really old uncle or not, because it seems like, he's saying that some old uncle is actually shouting and all that. So we have to go through this kind of investigation. And this thing will take some time, even for us. So this uncle, during the weekends, they will come back. Weekday is not available, right? So when I just knock the door, the uncle opened the door, and it's all dark, right? So he was saying, hey, yes, anything I can help you, right? So for us, for me, I would just say, hey, uncle, how are you doing, So just want to check it out whether, do you hear any kind of noises created from anywhere? They said, no, it's fine, no problem. Then, we start to communicate and ask, hey, have you joined our community event before? No? They say, no, I'm not interested. So you can see that, for such so-called residents, right, they will usually reject any kind of invitations. So I say, it's okay. So anyway, good night, right? So if let's say you happen to see hear any noise, right, also please let us know again, because we are walking around to check it out, because we have people, receiving such a complaint, right? So I think after some times, on and off, then the noise will come back. So we try to check it out again and be friend to the neighbour, right? There's one time, I went to the car park, and early in the morning, right, I recognized that, this car is there, he's walking. Then I just say, hi, morning, uncle. Then he was so stunned and say that, hey, oh, yeah, morning. So after that, I think the noise reduced quite some time, right? So, but eventually, I think he knows that he did something, and he also evaluates. So I think, fortunately, the noise actually settled down for a while. That's, I think, about 6 months or so. And there are a couple of such cases, like in the nighttime, counting money, coins on the floor itself, and dragging your chairs and all that. So such case is, I would say, can be controlled. But of course, it all depends on how we communicate with the residents below. So I think, important thing is actually the community leaders need to actually engage with the residents, right, to know who are you. At the same time, when you know the faces, right, then they join the event. Usually, they will be very able to accommodate such a kind of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, so there have been several stories on social media where residents have had disagreements with their next-door neighbours due to noise. But later on, they find out that because of the way some of the flats are built, the noise is actually coming from maybe 2 stories above, or basically a flat that they didn't expect it to come from. Have you ever seen cases like this? And how were these cases managed?
Okay, such cases, to be honest, I mean, based on the structure of, the HDB, right? And sound travel always. So you don't actually have a precise and confirm that, the unit is coming from where. Sometimes we need to also so-called, previously there's a lab at Commonwealth site actually created by our CAP team as well. So, you do some testing, the sensors to detect, right, where's actually the noise coming from. Actually, the noise travel upwards. So for residents actually having this type of problem, right, so usually we can only estimate, we cannot assure that, where the noise is actually coming from. That's a very tricky kind of question, right?
You're also part of the Community Advisory Panel on Neighbourhood Noise, which was convened to establish levels of acceptable or unacceptable noise disturbances and also community norms that residents should adopt. Now, this panel had also made recommendations on how to manage noise. So can you tell us what were some of these recommendations? And, maybe can tell us also why were these recommendations necessary?
The noise issue is actually getting more and more, right? Of course, we wanted to also make sure that the strict rules will also deter those people from doing deliberate noise, right? Some noise can be controlled, some cannot be, right?
So Raymond, can you just tell us what are some of the steps towards mediation?
First step, we actually recommend the neighbours talk within themselves, right? To actually resolve the issues within, if possible. If not, community leaders will come inside to actually help them. But if, let's say, after some so-called discussion or rather talks and all that, nobody is actually trying to give in, then we have to actually recommend them to go to the CMC, right? So when we go to the CMC, but then, of course, we need both parties to attend the mediation, right? If either of them is not actually able to turn out, if this issue is getting worse, then we have to pursue this thing out to CDRT.
So Raymond, what is the difference between CMC, the Community Mediation Centre, and CDRT, which is the Community Disputes Resolution Tribunals?
Okay, the difference of two is actually CMC portion-wise, the person who actually filed the complaint of the noise, of course, they have to actually forecast some time, right, to go to this mediation centre. At the same time, the suspect, right, also need to go there because 2 persons need to actually talk and see what is the things that they need to go to actually compromise, right? And if, let's say, they rejected, either party is not able to, or not interested to actually have the mediation session, then, if the thing still, this so-called noise issue still persists, they have to escalate to the CDRT. CDRT is actually a so-called a court site where actually, do has a mandatory that both parties have to actually attend.
And if they don't attend, then what comes next?
Okay, if they say they no intent, usually when they see a court logo, right, they will want to attend really. Okay, it's actually quite standard. So we also heard that, some people reject the police, HDB letter and all that, right? But when they see the sub-court logo asking them to go to the court, usually they will just go.
Okay, so the government is making mediation mandatory as it has been effective in resolving disputes. And now, back to the discussion with me, Lynda Hong, and my co-host, Christie Chiu, as we discuss the topic of neighbourly disputes over noise with grassroots leader Raymond Poh. This episode is brought to you by the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth.
What are the new proposed enhancements to the Community Disputes Resolution Amendment Bill?
The CR unit, actually, they have an official pass to show the residents, right, their identity. They will come as auxiliary police, right, to attend to that kind of cases. On that level, wise, I think it's very severe cases whereby, those noise level cannot be tolerated and it's actually classified under the intended noise creator, noise maker, right? So the bill actually will come through and also wanting to actually let those noise creators to be knowing that, they are taking action against this intent noise creator.
So sounds like the community relations unit has a lot of powers.
Yes, in a way, yeah. Yeah, like authorities. Act as
Right.
authority, yes.
So is there a reason why the CRU is needed? Is it possibly like increased noise disputes, or maybe noise disputes are getting more serious?
Yeah, noise dispute is getting more and more so-called an issue, especially, in Singapore side. Dense-wise, I think the building structure is actually building more and more nearer and nearer each time because, now we have a 6 million population. So, some rules actually have to come out. So some things had to happen, right, to act on it. If not, this noise issue will not be resolved and nobody will want to give in, or rather change the habit, right? Because noise, this type of thing is like when every time you just pull a chair, drag the table and all that, to them is actually a habit. So I think with the new CRU unit in place is to let every Singaporean know that we need to be very, very so-called taking care of the neighbours, during their rest time especially.
So, Raymond, how do you foresee that your work in mediating neighbour disputes become different after the amendment bill then?
Oh, okay. So myself, I actually did attend some courses for the PA mediation. So with this CRU in place, it made things more easier. But of course, as much as possible, we try not to utilize the CRU unit. Because, when we touch that, it's a bit ugly at certain aspect already to say that, they really cannot talk. So as much as possible, we hope that the grassroots leader survey side, they're able to so-called invite more residents to join the activities. Because nowadays, I think, we are seeing that a lot of people just close the door, then, less communication and all that. So I think even though you're a neighbour, but then you don't really communicate, it's like a stranger, right? So I think getting to know each other is very important. So I think with the events and all that created within the precinct, so we hope that the community leaders can also do a better job in terms of getting more kind of new residents to join in. When you have more events with new faces, or you feel that you'll be connected in a way. And of course, the most important thing is also give and take, right? Everyone's tolerance level of noise is different. Sometimes, for example, renovation, right? You want to knock the hole and all that doing sometimes maybe you can buy a chocolate and say, hey, during this time I'm trying to do some minor renovation, hope that you can just understand the situation, right? I think the neighbours will surely understand this issue and not create any kind of issue for you. But you need to be mindful of everything what you're doing. Just be a good neighbour. Yeah.
So, from what you've said just now, I assume that your stand is that residents will be more open to finding solutions through peaceful means before they escalate the issue to the various centres.
Yes, that's what actually we wanted to achieve, to be honest. Because the CRE unit is not staying there, right? No matter what is, neighbour and neighbour, between neighbours. So any noise created, right? I think it's better to check it out. Just be gentle and don't very hostile, right? If you go and knock the door, bang the door, and let's say, hey, open the door, why are you creating such noise, this time and all that? That is a different kind of approach. What you want is just say, can you help me during this time not to create so much noise? It depends actually how you approach the neighbour, right? So I think for grassroots community, it's very important for them to do as a bridge to communicate, right? At the same time, also to understand, whether what needs they want. For example, some seniors at home, even a very single noise, you think that it's a very loud noise, right? Then, the last time I actually visited a resident on the ground floor, his wife actually passed on. He was saying that this time, this hour, there's a generator, on top, making noise, I can't sleep and all that. And he's staying alone. So I asked him, can I come into a unit to take a look? And he said, okay, fine. Then we have a chit-chat. After chit-chat, then I say, okay, it's okay. Since that you have a problem, all right, because you cannot sleep well, and he's alone in a house, so I say, it's okay, I'll go upstairs and take a look on the second floor. Then I went up, this lady and the kids, right? Then I just went around, then I asked the lady, did anybody told you that actually there are, some noise creating from here? He said, yeah, downstairs, but there's no issue for us, right? Right. You're saying that there's some so-called big generator creating the kind of noise during the kind of time, like nighttime, So I said, will you allow me to take a picture of your unit? I mean, the bedroom itself. It's just a bed. It's not a generator. So I said, yeah, fine, no problem. Then I took the picture, I went downstairs, I explained to the uncle. The uncle said, oh, I told him there's no generator. Then I walked inside his room, right, to check it out. And I found a very old metal plate fan whining. The kind of noise created, right, is the sound. Well, so I request him to remove it. After that, there's no issue.
Right. So in this story, it sounds like a big issue with the lack of communication between the upstairs and the downstairs neighbour, right? And then
It's not really a communication.
As in
It's
they didn't speak to each other.
They didn't speak to each other. This one thing. At the same time, when somebody leave you, for example, right near you are alone, usually you will hear more noise lah.
Well, that's a wrap for In Your Opinion. Thank you, Raymond, for your insights. It was a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Lynda Hong.
And I'm Christie Chiu. You can email us your thoughts on this issue. Also, if you'd like to read my articles and ST's opinion columns, all these links are in our podcast show notes.
This episode is brought to you by the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. Thanks for listening.
Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or within our Straits Times app. Thanks for listening.